Okay, so we just graphed the sine function. So now what we're going to do is we're going to graph the cosine function from the unit circle. Now notice all the ones that are underlined in red represent the sine function because that's where the y coordinates are. And the sine function is all the y coordinates on the unit circle. What we're going to do now is we're going to graph our cosine function, and cosine are all the x values. So that means that the cosine of 0 is 1, the cosine of 90 is 0, the cosine of 180 is -1, the cosine of 270 is 0, and the cosine of 360 is 1. So what we're going to do is head on down here, and we're going to create a y equals cosine x graph using the x coordinates on the unit circle. And I'm going to set up the same chart for cosine. So we have 0 degrees, 90, 180, 270, and 360. And then we're going to use the x coordinates to do the cosine graph. So again, cosine of 0 is 1. That's the x coordinate at 0 degrees. The x coordinate at 90 is 0. The x coordinate at 180 is -1. The x coordinate at 270 is 0. And the x coordinate at 360 is 1. Now these look very similar to those, but they're not identical. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention to use the correct coordinate for your graph. We're going to set up the same scale so that you have 0, and the highest point is 1, and the lowest point is -1. That's your max and your min. And we're going to make these degrees equidistant. And then we're going to plot. So at 0 degrees, it's all the way up at 1. So for y equals cosine x, 0 is at 1. That's our beginning point. At 90 degrees, it's at 0. At 180 degrees, we have to fall down to -1. At 270, back to 0. And at 360, back to +1. So this looks very much like a V, but it's not. This is definitely a smooth curve. And what you want to kind of envision is on the sine graph, do you see how the peak is up here and it kind of swooshes down? And what we're going to do is we're going to start our graph here and we're going to swoosh down and come back up. So it's very curvy. Don't just connect the dots and make a V. That's not correct. You want to start at the top and you want to splash down and down. So it looks like that. And this is what a cosine curve looks like. This is y equals cosine x. And there's a couple things about the cosine curve that you need to know, characteristics. The first one is that you use the x coordinate on the unit circle. The second thing is that it starts at 1. So y equals cosine x is actually going to start at 1. It doesn't start at 0. So it starts high. Okay. The next thing that you need to know is that it makes a U shape. And it is still a smooth curve. So do not make it pointy. There's no place pointy here. It's very curvy. Okay, so that's how you get the cosine graph.